Block 1, we read about the new communication research methodologies. Communication research has come a long way since it was considered to be merely scientific or simply a process. The difficulties of applying research methodologies to social sciences have now been well acknowledged. In the field of communications, each research method has its unique features, advantages and disadvantages. We have with us today in our panel experts from radio, television and advertising who will discuss the various research methods being used in their respective areas and their applications. We have Dr. Sunil Mishra from Population Foundation of India, Dr. S.K. Khatri, Director Audience Research, All India Radio, Dr. B.S. Chandrasekhar, Director Audience Research, Doordarshan, and Mr. M.R. Arun from the world of advertising. A vast amount of communication research activity is going on in our country today. Dr. Sunil Mishra will present an overview of the communication research scenario in India.
The communication research in India has by and large been on the impact of the mass media, and in earlier days during the 50s it was on interactional channels. But as we know, the technology of communication is changing at a very fast pace. It's known as the age of communication revolution. And every innovation in communication technology brings along with its own methods of communication, its techniques of ensuring impact of the communication, etc. Communication research by implication has to keep pace with the emergent technologies in communication, that's number one. And number two, at the same time, ensure what it collects is objective and is not reflection of preconceived notions. In many of the communication researches that we have seen, it's a reflection of preconceived notions of the researcher itself at the cost of objectivity. We know that there are multiple channels of television communication available. In fact, it's a state of anarchy in the skies where people have options to watch 40, 50 or even 60 channels of television. Radio again, although it operates in a monopolistic situation, but multiplicity of channels is available because of newer and latest technologies of powerful radio communication. In such a situation, what does communication researchers do and what type of communication researchers are called for? Now, technology has made it possible to have interactive mode of communication over the mass media also. In television, as we have seen, teleconferencing where several people can simultaneously interact. What kind of research is called for is a topic which should attract the attention of the researchers as such. This brings in 2 or 3 key issues in the field of communication research. One is whether the old theories and concepts of impact of communication or research, conducting communication research still hold good in the light of the emergent new technologies. Secondly, because of so many extraneous factors like high mobility of the people, availability of mass media, greater interaction, education, etc., a complex of totally different factors determine human behavior, and as we know, communication is just one input in it. Therefore, a combination of research methods are called for to understand human behavior consequent to the impact of communication. These are the basic issues to which one should address ourselves.
The character and demands on an oral medium such as radio are different and unique. Radio is moving from a mass audience to a more specific medium. Moreover, there is a need to prioritize the audience according to their hopes and aspirations through audience research and pre-testing the programs. Dr. S.K. Khatri will talk of some of the new techniques being used for radio research.
We are normally adopting field survey approach, drawing small samples of various categories of respondents, going to the field, interacting with them, collecting data through the questionnaire method. We are using panel surveys. We are using postal surveys techniques. We are also having, beside the surveys, other kind of studies, what we call the on-the-spot observations, to collect the studies data, because there are some programs like our school broadcasts where the students are supposed to have a monitor set and react on the spot. Then we go send our people to make the studies there on the spot and record their reactions. And all this data is compiled and tabulated and presented to the policy makers. Now, the basic purpose of research in All India Radio is to keep our policy makers well informed about the needs and reactions of the masses, and also the popularity of various programs, provide them the ratings of various programs so that they can use them for deciding, even in commercial also, deciding the commercial rates, and also in planning the various strategies for communication. And the whole purpose of audience research in All India Radio is to help in making rational choices among the communication alternatives given to the people and to the policy makers. Similarly, we provide them this data helps the policy makers in improving the quality and effectiveness of the program, and also helps them to understand and the efficiency of the communication medium. Because there are so many messages to be given to the people, the receivers are of different quality, they are of different standard, and their level of comprehension is very different. And for a policy maker or a program maker, it may not be very easy to understand whether which particular message can be taken in what particular way, whether people will react positively, negatively, there will be many other factors intervening into it. So the audience research comes in there to help the policy maker to decide all these things. Now, in general, what we can say is that audience research proves the potential audience of a particular medium, general characteristics of particular audiences, their age, occupation, income, availability of various media to the target audience, and possible or actual impact of a particular message. All these aspects are taken into various studies we have been conducting. The main functions of audience research have been to help the program planning, improve quality of programs, formulation of our policies, and for this we conduct, as I said, various kind of researches which include both formative as well as summative researches. Now, in this connection, what we have to remember is, although we are conducting all these studies, the response of the audience or the audience behavior is influenced by a number of factors. And we have to understand all these factors before undertaking any studies. The media availability, the kind of media availability, that decides the audience reaction. If suppose in a particular situation, people have access to number of media, press, TV, radio. Now, the easy availability of that media is the first thing. And then the reach of the media. We may have a TV station or TV signal may be operating, but it may not be well received there. Or the people may not be having adequate number of sets there. So that will affect the response of the audience also. Then another factor is the credibility of the media. The people's faith, that also decides the people's acceptability of the message. Language of broadcast, or time of broadcast or other factors which help in determining the people's response. How do we measure this response? For this, there are so many ways. We have got listeners' letters, viewers' letters. This is the beginning when we started our research. And these are not very dependable because they come from a particular, very small number of people who react in a particular way, or rather who come with their requests for particular type of programs. Then, as I have already said, that we conduct detailed sample surveys, panel surveys, postal surveys, on-the-spot observation studies, telephone surveys, and the other methods which are now gradually being adopted are audio-video meters, diary methods, and registration of listeners at the studio end. Then, the utility of these various methods, it depends on some number of factors. The quantitative or qualitative of research, type of research we are interested in when we decide the particular method. Urgency of information, that also compels us to, or rather makes us to decide the quickest method which can be used at that particular hour. Objectives of collecting data, that may also limit the choice of our method. Availability of different measurement tools, whether the different tools which we need, telephone, audio-video meters, even if we like to have, if their availability is not there, we cannot use it at particular time. Then literacy level of the audience also makes us to decide the tools. For this, in All India Radio, we are doing a number of studies. These audience research studies are general listening surveys, which are done, there are sample surveys, which are done on a large at a large scale among the different groups of people in different areas. Then we are going for feed-forward studies. These feed-forward studies are primarily done when a new station comes up and there is no background material for the potential audience there. The audience research goes, collects all kind of relevant data required for the program planning and about the profile of the audience.
Pressures on public service organizations such as Doordarshan are manifold. On one hand, Doordarshan has to cater to the popular taste of the audience. On the other, it has to safeguard against commercialism. Dr. B.S. Chandrasekhar will dwell upon some of the emerging techniques in audiovisual research.
And television also, we are continuing with the same types of methods, and the objectives are similar. Here again, there is the analysis of the communicator or the source, and there could be a research on the message, particularly the content analysis. I think early morning someone talking about the women's program or how women are depicted on the television. This is also a very important area where research can be conducted. The third is the audience analysis, the process and effects of research. Here we have to see television in two ways. Television is a public service. Television is a public service. And television is also a commercial enterprise in our country. When we talk of a television as a public service, we have to see the social research and effects. That becomes more important. What is the role of media? It is as an institution. For example, the media has an objective. Sometimes it can make an agenda. It can set up an agenda for the country. That sort of role has to be studied. But as a TV, as a commercial enterprise, this trust changes to some extent, where we are more interested in reach, ratings, the share of audience, and the cost per thousand, etc., which are the terms which are more useful for the advertiser. In this particular situation, what becomes more important in television is viewership tracking. Tracking means how the viewership is changing over weeks, over the periods of time, whether a particular program is becoming more popular or it is losing its popularity. So this viewer tracking, this tracking is done in two ways. There is a traditional method called a diary method. Here a set of people are given a diary. They record the viewership in that particular diary. But now it is possible to improve the efficiency. There are electronic gadgets which are called people meters,
and they record actually the viewership automatically. How the channel is changed, it is recorded automatically, and then it is also possible to put into that people meter the type of people who are watching those programs. And then here, again the people meter again, there has to be a lot of technological change. For example, it says which channel, which band was being tuned, but sometimes a cable operator may change the program. What was coming on channel 6 may be coming on channel 5, etc. At that time, there is a new improvement in this what is called the picture matching techniques. Instead of just going by what is given on the channel, it is possible to match the picture in that particular case. This is one way, because this becomes very important for the advertiser. And in India, for example, there is an investment of about 1,000 crores on television, not just Doordarshan, including all the channels, and so it becomes very important for this sort of data. Today we have both these systems are operating. The diary methods are also operating, and also the people meter methods are also operating. The diary method, which was used by the advertisers for a long period, was from the IMRB. It has panels in 9 cities. The 9 cities were the 4 metros and the other 4 capitals of the South India, Ahmedabad and Kanpur. It was very much limited in the sense it was having more and more representation in the non-Hindi areas. So what we thought, Doordarshan audience research television ratings, they were introduced. These here, the panels are in 33 cities, and data comes from cities of different population sizes, better representation in terms of languages and regions are there. And actually, in most of the advanced countries, the most important method of getting is from the people meter. When there are 50 channels or 20 channels, it is very difficult for anybody to remember what he watched during one period of one day. So the people meter system is operating in most of the other countries. In India, a beginning has been made. IMRB has got people meters set up in 3 cities. There is a proposal to have this system to be extended to other areas also. This people meter, it is a very costly method, and so it requires a lot of investment. And because of that investment constraints, it has not been possible to extend it at a national level. Then if you see, I can say some data if you can see. The people meter or the diaries can provide 3 types of data. That is the reach of a channel, the ratings of a program, how much time was spent on different channels, and if somebody was watching a program X, whether he was also watching program Y. This sort of very, very sophisticated analysis is possible because it is actually a people meter is a microprocessor. It is a sort of a computer which can take all the data and make all sorts of analysis. In this particular people meter data, what we have, if you can see, of course this is not very clear perhaps, percentage time spent on different channels, if you see, Doordarshan 1 and 2 account for about 60% of the total audience. The other channels account for varying periods. Here you have to see that the people meter are operating in Bombay, Madras, and Delhi only. And Bombay itself is a very cosmopolitan city, and Madras, the channels of Tamil are very popular. In spite of this, Doordarshan has got about 80% of the total viewership. The other system of people meter data, which is available from the IMRB data, from 9 cities, if there was an analysis was made, for the DD channels was getting about 86% of the time spent on TV viewing, and the other channels were getting 14% of the time spent on DD viewing and television viewing. And similarly, we have given some dot ratings, which shows that a film like Friday film gets a rating of 60, whereas a program like Surabhi gets only 24, and news, particularly news, it is English news, get a rating of 12, and the Samachar gets a rating of 20. And finally, I think the audience research or the viewership data also gives databases for research in many related areas like family planning or women's study, etc. There they get the databases which will be very, very helpful in this particular field.
Advertising is a meticulously planned activity to persuade the customers to buy a product. Mr. M.R. Arun will talk about some research designs that obtain feedback from the advertising agencies.
As you know, unlike a TV program or a radio program, advertisements are repeated many times over the channel. You yourself might have had the experience of getting maybe fatigued or bored with a particular commercial. So it is very essential for us to know first whether the creative or the commercial is getting across to the audience with the correct message in the 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So understanding the message is a very essential aspect of testing a creative. The second very important aspect is whether the audience likes the commercial or not. As I said, due to many repetitions of the message on TV, any commercial which is disliked will put off the audience and will go against the basic purpose of the campaign, that is the product or the service being advertised. Target audience dislikes the commercial for any reason, then that campaign probably will not work. Finally, any advertising has to provoke an action. Either a purchase of the product, which is the most common, usage of the service, or at least send an inquiry for the product. So whatever the action is there, we have to test whether at the end of the commercial this action is evoked or not. Now there are many ways of testing this. And when I talk of creative pre-test, I am talking of testing the commercial before it is released in the media. This is done in focus groups. Normally, what is done is a group of 8 or 10 members of the target audience, for example housewives, are brought together in a room and they are shown the tested commercial. The commercial being tested is placed in a bunch of other commercials in a videotape, and this tape is played on a television in that room. And after this is done, they are asked for their opinion. They discuss among themselves whether they like the commercial, dislike the commercial, whether they would purchase the product, etc. And this focus group discussion is recorded. And based on this, we come to the conclusion whether the commercial will work or will it not work, or whether it requires improvement somewhere, whether the audio quality is low, whether that requires improvement, whether the branding, the brand name is not coming across, whether that requires improvement, etc. So this is what we call creative pre-test. Now, once the testing has been done and the campaign has been run, again, while the campaign is being run, we require feedback on whether the commercial is working or not. Normally, the percentages obtained, any aided recall of above 70 is considered very good. It's very difficult to get an aided recall of that level, 70%, and spontaneous or unaided recall of double digits, 10 or 11 is also considered very good. So this is the first test, whether the commercial is being recalled at all or not. Then we go to a step further. Out of all the people who recall the brand name, we ask them, okay, what do you know about the brand? Whether anything more of the message got across or not. If the salient, the main message of the brand has got across, that is called recognition. After I tell you brand XYZ, and ask you what does brand XYZ do? And if the respondent says brand XYZ of painkiller is the fastest painkiller in the world, and if that has been my message, that is called recognition. So I find out whether my message is getting through or not. Then the third question I ask, after asking likes and dislikes, I ask, will you purchase the brand? Or if you are not already purchasing some other brand in the same category, are you going to purchase this the next time you go? So that gives me a score of purchase intention. So creative post-test tests the effectiveness of a campaign.
How do we take care of the objectivity in the communication research? Maybe especially in the case of advertising research, how the objectivity is taken care of. Mr. Arun would like to respond.
Now, advertising research, as you saw, is in two parts. One is simple quantitative research, where as long as the sample design is all right, the measurement of the reach, etc., I see no problem in objectivity, as long as the sample design is correct. The problem comes in when you do this focus group research and find out likes, dislikes, attitudes, etc. Here, there are professional researchers who are trained to interpret messages. There is something called semiotics. For example, the same phrase may mean different in Bombay than different in Delhi. For example, Bombay motorbike means elder brother, and Delhi anybody saying motorbike will take offense. So the people who are trained in interpreting language, they listen to the focus group discussion and they come down and come out with the conclusions. So due to the training and due to the conscious effort on their part to be objective rather than subjective, the objectivity has to be maintained. But it has to be maintained only through trained researchers and through conscious.
It's a research undertaken by a researcher. The element of objectivity will always be there. Now, if it is a sponsored research, then some element of subjective bias does creep in. But an experienced researcher who has spent a lifetime in this field can always take only objective assessment of the situation, because if the purpose is to help in improving the quality of the advertisement and not only on generating commercial revenue, then research has got to be objective. Now, some very interesting points have emerged out of these presentations, and I feel that the communications researchers, whether they are in advertising field or in Doordarshan or in radio, have by and large adapted themselves to the changed situations, catering to the needs of the media and their own respective organizations. The important point is that in a multimedia matrix, where the similar information or the same information is emerging from so many sources, the researchers have been able to objectively assess as to which media advertisement suits which medium. Likewise, in radio and Doordarshan also, the researchers have succeeded in identifying and determining the impact of a program vis-a-vis respective audiences. The only point is that ours is a heterogeneous country, as you all know about 91 eco-cultural zones inhabited by 4,635 castes and communities, poverty, different levels of literacy, economic disparities, and we all know the barriers to effective communication. And the communication researcher has to operate in this situation, in this universe. You can very well imagine the hazards and the responsibilities it places on it. Gadgetry is available, but it's expensive, and how far it can be used in Indian situation is a moot question. And because of that, I think the field researchers will have to continue. The important point, two more important points come to my mind, that as far as the glamour-oriented entertainment is considered, audio-visual mediums like television will always held this way. But as far as committed audience is concerned, like the women, children, tribal youth, farmers, rural, etc., radio will have a committed audience, and it has been shown over the time. Finally, applied communications research is not taught in any university, and that's a problem which I believe the academicians will pay due respect. Because we talk of communication theory, but how to conduct researches, how to operate in different fields is not taught, is not trained, training is not given in any of the institutions. Thank you.
And